What is up, folks?
Hey guys, it is Scotch for Dummies live on a Thursday night.
It's a good night,
It's
fellas.
starting out well.
It's a good night.
That's good.
It is. Happy
excited.
Thursday, boys. We've got a really cool show.
Heck
I'm
yeah.
looking forward to
Great
it.
guest. I'm
Is
excited about
Is
it.
it Valentine's edition?
It is.
Oh, I guess it kind of is.
I guess it could be.
Is this where we do the heart logo? And
No,
Oh,
no, we're not doing that.
freaking
on
Hallmark
Zoom,
holiday?
sorry.
I don't want to hear that.
That's not happening.
But I want to say hi to all you out there. So, who do we got online? Let's
Yep.
start off and say hi to everybody before we really dive into it, because we've got a
We got a
jam-packed show
jam-packed
tonight.
agenda. So
But
Stephen Rogers in there. Jeff Teamy. Tom R's in there.
I see these boys.
look at these guys.
Nice.
Joe
A lot of
Gaines.
patrons.
Yeah, it's all our
It's
patrons.
all our patrons.
Everybody's
Joe
excited
Humble.
about the guest.
Trooper Henry.
And the
Loch Ness,
topic.
Boyer. Overpay. Everybody.
Hey, Justin.
Man, that's a
All
lot of people
right.
here.
Justin's here.
Well, people
Yeah,
are going
we
to
did
be
switch. Yep.
They're going to be coming in. We've got. Do we have anything that we need to go over for what we're going to talk about tonight, Drew? Or are we just going to dive into this?
Yeah, we got a little agenda here. If you want to, give me a second to pull it up.
Oh, look, there's trivia. Oh, that's later.
Talk amongst yourselves.
There's going to be some trivia. So we do have a special guest. We will introduce her in just a few seconds, but we're going to talk about a lot of different things with her. Most excitingly for me and us is a bottle that they have put together for us. So we'll get into
It's
that.
amazing. Actually, the videos dropped today.
Yeah.
So they're out. So we actually did a short. You did a short, and we
Yep.
did a live video, a long video format, kind of going through it,
Whiskey
talking about it.
review,
Yeah,
yeah.
whiskey review. Thank you, and talking about all the flavors and everything else. And that was a fun review.
I thought both
good
of the videos were really good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm not
see-
just saying that because I was the short for this
you
one.
did. That's okay. That's all right. It's fine.
No, so yeah, obviously we got into it, and we're going to get into that bottle a little bit more tonight, especially finding out where it came from and how it came to be, and who was behind it all, and learn a little bit more about her. And we're going to talk about the trip out to that distillery
Yep.
at the end of the month. So we've got a lot to do. We also have a trivia that Drew put together, which I took the test today. It's a pretty good one. I actually learned a lot. I didn't score quite as high as I.
That's okay.
Well,
Well, it's a tough one. It's going to be good. Hey, we got a super chat from Tom R. Thank you so much, Tom. He's super excited for this show, as we are as well. So
he's been saying that for a couple days in the Discord, so I believe him.
Yeah.
But glad you're here, Tom. And then we also have we're going to do a spin the wheel for the patrons,
what?
and we're going to give a couple samples.
What are we
going
to give away samples of?
This is something that was suggested last week, and we're going to do it this week. So 2 lucky patrons are going to get samples of this new bottle tonight.
So I probably need to send it
Alright.
pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
We have a problem with the shipping department. They tend to lag. There's
So
some
that's
lag
pretty
there, so-
awesome.
Damn
Pretty
logistics.
awesome. Super excited for you guys. But yeah, so fun show tonight. Our guest tonight is wonderful. She's been super engaging this entire time. She has pulled off a masterpiece for us, and she's got other masterpieces that are going to be coming up for us in the future. Like you mentioned, we're going to go visit them and actually meet her in person. But tonight we have her virtually to join us and talk about this. Are you
Yeah.
guys ready to bring her on the show?
Oh,
Keep
Absolutely.
going, Drew. Let's see it.
Let's see. And welcome
Who
our
is
guest.
this mystery person?
Let's announce her, Mark.
Amanda Beckwith from the Virginia Distilling Company. She is the master blender and has a whole history that we're going to get into. So, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's good to see you. I'm super excited about coming out to see you at the end of the month. But we got a lot to talk about. I want
sure
to
do.
get to know you a little bit more, and our patrons and our subscribers, everybody that's watching, want to get to know who you are, where you come from, and why you do what you do.
Sounds great.
Well, first off, cheers to you, and thank you for the wonderful bottle that you gave us. It's amazing.
Yes,
So
thank
cheers.
you.
It's
Cheers.
delicious.
Cheers.
Gents, happy Thursday, boys.
I'm into it. You guys are slow.
Let me pull this out there and just get it up there and tee it up for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what we warmed up with a Cedar Ridge
We did.
American Single Malt, but now that we're live, it's time to get into the
Guess you
the
want some
whiskey
more?
that we're going to showcase tonight. So, Amanda, here you are, the Virginia Distilling Company. Tell us a little bit just about you. You know, just where you come from, how you got into this, and kind of what drives you, and then we'll get into the distillery and all that stuff later. But you know, who's Amanda?
You know, I fell into the whiskey world. I'm someone who just loves the webs of how things connect. And I always dabbled in a lot of different things, but was passionate about travel, history, culture, really experiencing moments. And whiskey for me was a great connector for all of that. My favorite moments for the past several years with friends were often, sharing whiskey somewhere. And so, yeah, I never even envisioned there was a career path that would bring me into making whiskey. That wasn't even anywhere in my mind. I came from the nonprofit world. I was an English major who really loved doing things that would, give back to the community, that I could grow in and just kind of find all the things that made me happy. And so I heard about this distillery opening up in Virginia. And when I found out they were going to be doing a single malts, I just was obsessed immediately and knew I had to be part of it some way because single malt whiskey is kind of like my big love. And I love all types of whiskey, but that just grabbed me.
Well, I think all of our subscribers, everyone watching, loves whiskey. Obviously, we're Scotch for Dummies. That's where we started, but it goes beyond that. So, I mean, it's really cool that you stumbled into that.
Yeah. What was your first
envy.
job with the distillery then?
I was the guest experience manager. So
Okay.
yeah, I used to work at the Virginia Aquarium, so I did have a tourism background. I understood what they were looking for, and they were just breaking ground 10 years ago. So I came on board. I did everything from making sure fire extinguishers were installed, railing for the visitor center, the patio, the stone. Like I was just finding people to put things together. And as that role was coming together, I knew I was going to have to learn even more about whiskey so I could train my tour guides and
Sure. Yeah.
develop that. And I really lucked out. We had three brilliant mentors come along to get our distillery up and running, and they all kind of adopted me in one way or another. So I just soaked up all the knowledge I could.
That's amazing. So with no formal whiskey training, you were able to work through the distillery into master blender. That's
Well,
cool.
I did train along the way more formally. So I did the.
Well,
I mean, you did kind of say like she just walked in and like poof. Obviously, you've got training, but yeah, the timing is perfect for you to be able to kind of. I mean, that's really everything, right? The door was open just right. You seized the opportunity and you ran with it.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, and not only that, but the distillery has grown. I mean, it's prominent, right? People know who the Virginia Distillery. If you're into whiskey in the United States of America, you know who this distillery is. You know
100%.
That's correct.
I remember we were talking about this, I guess a year ago, really, and you guys came up, and all our patrons were like, oh, "I love that bottle." We got a comment yesterday about, "I've got a blended bottle or something. It's amazing." So you're very well known, very well known.
That's huge because we're independently owned. So we don't have some of the clout or the dollars behind us that the bigger players do, but we're really passionate about single malts. And that makes my heart so happy.
Yeah,
Cool.
you're well loved.
It helps when you put out good whiskey.
It's true. Kind of need that.
Right. Flip on the screen so I can keep going here, Drew. But so you talked a little bit about your training and what did that entail? What have you trained in, I should say, along your way? You know, obviously you've probably done some tasting training, some nosing and learning your palate and how to identify stuff like that. And obviously you've studied the process. I'm sure you understand how whiskey is made from A to Z. But tell us a little bit about your training and how that went or how it's going, because it probably never ends, right?
Yeah.
Never ends. That's my favorite thing. Like it's just inspiring to keep learning and growing. And I'll never fully be there. And that's okay. It's fun to have challenges. About summer of 2015, I went to Kentucky and spent some time at bourbon distilleries, got to get my hands dirty, doing all sorts of things, hammering bungs into bungholes, and then I went to Scotland, went to New Zealand, and those mentors that I mentioned earlier set me up with different distilleries that they'd helped start. So I got to go to the Clydeside Distillery in its early stages, and they didn't have anything aging yet, but I got to learn a lot about new make there, and it was really fascinating. And then in New Zealand, the Cardrona was an incredible experience. That was in 2016, and I just again soaked up everything I could. it was really the mentorship of Nancy Fraley, though, that pulled me into the blending world. We hired her. We sent her a couple samples of our blended whiskey in 2015. It was a port cask finish that was sourced from Scotland and then finished in Virginia. And she gave some analysis. And then we had her on site to do a sensory training. And I was like pretty quiet at first, and then felt more and more comfortable answering her questions and giving feedback. And she singled me out, pulled me aside, said, "You have a really good palate. Let's talk." And we became friends, stayed in touch over the years.
That's awesome.
And she asked me to be her mentee. So we've gone to France together. I've gotten to go work on fun projects with her. It's been amazing. So yeah, again, 10 years. And she is the one who said I should be a blender. And she spoke to our CEO and said, "Hey, like, you need to make Amanda your head blender." So I am
That's
so
awesome.
grateful. Yes, so generous. She does not gatekeep, and she's really inspired me to do the same and pass on what I've been learning to other people.
That's great.
Well, your passion just comes through, Amanda. Just seeing you on
Oh, yeah.
screen,
Yeah, no
you
question.
we've met with
We've
you
talked to you
several
enough, and you can
times.
see
and
it, yeah.
There's just such a passion and excitement when you talk, and it's amazing. It's like there's a little bit of jealousy that you're doing what you truly love. I'm like, man, she's nailed it. This woman is happy in what she's doing, and she's making a difference every day. So that's really cool. I think it comes through in the whiskey.
Yeah,
I hope so.
absolutely.
I don't know if you noticed too, by the way, on the background of the screen of the interview, we have your image of your distillery down, or maybe it's your
Looks like the
office,
welcome center,
welcome
maybe?
center, maybe.
Yeah.
That's the
can't tell.
distillery, I think. Well, I'm not sure. I can see the two silos and the
Yeah.
distillery itself. Yes, you can see the edge of the copper pot still in the window.
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
we're excited
There
to
it
come
is.
see that in person pretty soon.
Yes.
But you guys are out there. I mean, how describe kind of the area and how you get to your place. What are we going to see when we get there?
It's beautiful. It feels like Scotland a little bit. We're on 100
Nice.
acres, rolling hills, mostly trees. There's a little stream that cuts through them. And we have grown barley on site. We've grown it off site too. But right now we're focused on just getting it all in. So you do have the two malt silos. And our layout is very much like you would see in Scotland. So for those of you watching who've spent time, especially in like the Space side or even Isla, actually, because our engineer who set us up was Harry Coburn. So he was the distillery manager, and before that, engineer Bowmore. So he was very
Oh,
linear.
He knows how to lay it out.
Yes,
Yeah.
with the layouts. So it definitely has that feel, which I love.
So is this the original equipment that was built in 2015, or have you expanded since then? Or
It's
before
mostly
that?
original from 2015. We have expanded during 2020 and 2021. We built a lot more up on the hill. So we have two larger cask houses,
Yeah,
and we
cask houses.
converted our old cask house, which was dunnage style, into the bottling house.
Oh, okay. But just the same stills, same everything. You're just running them
Yes.
faster.
Same stills, made for us in Elgin, Scotland. There are four sides.
So let's talk about what you guys do at the distillery. Obviously, you make American single malt. Here we go. We've got one of those. But, I mean, it's not the backbone, right? You guys make bourbons. You guys make rye. What else do you guys run through this? Is it all just American single malt?
100%
Yeah.
American single malt. That is our passion. That's what we do.
Needed to make that clear to everybody.
Thank you very much, Mark.
I want everybody to know.
Because I was like, I'm pretty
You mean-
sure it's just
Yeah, I was
No,
like, I
I'm
don't
asking
remember
a
seeing
stupid
anything
question
else.
for the
I like-
masses.
Don't make
That's good.
vodkas
That's
and
good.
gins to help
Yep, I mean,
pay the bills.
If you
Oh,
didn't, you didn't just get excited. And then
I'm
answer.
so excited.
And I think that is what makes a distillery kind of, they focus on that distillate because that's what they do. That is all they do. So that is their focus, as opposed to, we got some barley left over from our bourbons. Let's try to run
So
a single
many.
malt and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a different business.
Well, and that's going on in a lot of, especially now that, American single malt has been, what I guess we're going to say, ratified, codified. I don't know what
Yes.
the word is, but I mean,
That's the word.
what's the feeling there at the distillery now that, it is a true official thing, right? You guys have been doing it for 10 years, but now you've been made valid. Right?
Well, Yeah, it's been a long journey. I mean, it's been decades since the US government recognized a specific style of whiskey, and we had an uphill battle. I often refer to bourbon as the great American comfort blanket, and I love it, don't get
It
me
is.
wrong, but
That's good. That's real good. I like that.
you have to educate people so they know when they hear single malts what it is. And when I first got into this world, I realized very quickly when people heard single malt, they quickly were going to not only Scotch, but they were imagining a peated Scotch like 9 out of 10 times. And there can absolutely be smoky, even peated American single malts, but like the idea of an Isla in particular is really pervasive. So being able to start going, you know what, there are different styles of single malt all over the world, and the malt's about barley, and the single's about a single location. So you're getting a sense of place, and that can be really different. But also being able to showcase the freedoms inside American single malt, that it's not chained to new charred oak. That's
Right.
amazing to me.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and barley is incredible. I love that grain. So being able to elevate it to 100% of the mash bill is really cool.
So you touched on a couple things. Number one, first, I'll take it back to Scotch. It's Scotch for dummies. Yes, the misconception for the vast majority of Americans is that Scotch is all peated, right? So, and the irony is that only 10% of Scotch is peated, and
Yeah,
they're
I
missing
know.
out on the
It's
90%. But then you also talked about location, right? So terroir, and that's where we're getting into, and we're excited about that too, because as we start to dive into the American single malt realm, we're looking at the United States going, geez, look at it from a geographical perspective compared to Scotland. Scotland has 5, 6, technically, unofficially, regions that are really known. They're defined by the SWA. But you look at America and you're like, go down to New Mexico, right?
Yep.
Go down to Texas, then go up there to the Pacific Northwest, then come over to you on the East Coast. And these are
Go up to Maine, yeah.
completely different climate regions, right? So the whiskey's going to be so much different. And there's just terroir. And are you guys focused on trying to make a name for your region?
We would love that. That's a really exciting thought to us. We love being able to say, if you're looking for a specific style, experiment, try different American single malts. I'm such a fan of the category. I love what they're all doing. And yeah, I think that there's a single malt in the US out there for everybody. It would be really cool one day to have recognized US regions, because Scotland, with its 5 recognized, easily arguably 6
Right.
regions, can fit inside Virginia with a lot of room to spare. So,
Yeah,
and we're
exactly.
really
That's the point. It's like the
We're the
size of
37th
Indiana. The whole,
Yeah, that's so true.
So we have a few questions, but one I do want to bring out now because it pertains to that point. So technically, from everyone, technically the mountains, Virginia, are the same mountain chain that reaches the Scotland Highlands before the continent separated. So
Yes.
that kind of makes sense a little bit, I guess, right?
Wild, right?
It's the islands, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. And then a question for you about how many barrels in the rick house?
So we have 2 metal clads, and they each can hold about 6,000 casks. So right now we've got upwards of 8,500.
Wow.
Nice.
That's not
So,
bad.
Right.
everyone's question those Scottish Highlands, that makes me wonder, weren't you guys, I don't want to say guilty of, but didn't you
Busted
guys
for.
pull off using the word Highlands on a bottle?
What?
Yes.
What are you talking about? We don't talk about that. Excellently on that point.
I'm happy to get into it if you want.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, we love controversy.
I don't know if you were.
Hell yeah. Hey, by the way, we're kind of with you because we have the word Scotch in a bottle too.
Yeah, we put the word Scotch on a bottle, so I mean,
this
and
one.
got away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back when we were getting started, we wanted to be telling the story of barley, single malts, all of that. And again, our mentors were Scottish. And so it made sense for us to bring over a distilled and aged whiskey from Scotland. We weren't calling it a Scotch. What we did was we finished it in Virginia casks for about a year. And we were just doing that to kind of get everything up and running while we waited for our own new make to age up. And so we did a port cask finished whiskey, and it did a great job for us. We had a couple different names for it, and the first one that we were going with was Virginia Highland malt, or Virginia Highland whiskey. And the TTB kind of pushed us in this direction of how to have it on the label. And we thought we were telling the story of old world meets new. Funnily enough, Highland County is next door to us. So, yeah, super interesting there. But yeah, we were sued by the Scotch Whiskey Association, but we were already hoping to change the name anyway the moment we became fully American single malt. So we already had that in the books. So we just, moved that timeline up and changed it to VHW and then transitioned over. Yep.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question: when we arrive in March, will there be a bottle of that around so we can actually technically have a sample of that?
Yeah.
Because I would like to
I've
say
got a
I've had
library.
some of that. That's right.
That would be fun.
That'd
to
be
try.
amazing.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. Just to say we had some.
I didn't know anything about Virginia Distilling Company, but I remember the story.
Oh,
and
yeah.
seeing the headlines and being like, "Whoa, check out the Moxie
couple
here,
years.
man! These guys, I mean, and the SWA, they're swinging big. They're not going to step down. They're protecting everything they can about Scotch, and I get it. I understand.
They thought
but-
that Americans knew the Highlands,
Right.
right? That's the main problem right there. They
But
overstated their importance among
But like
American
everyone says,
consumers, I guess.
technically the same mountain range. They just,
Well, and it's still a Highland, right? You're in the Virginia Highlands, right?
Yeah.
So
kind of crazy.
It's a geographic location, dude. It's not a.
Whatever. I get
But
it,
we
right?
don't want people thinking we're making Scotch. We're very, very proud of being an American. single
Oh,
malt,
I
so.
see.
Absolutely, absolutely.
As well you should be.
But to flip that coin and talk a little bit about it, what we're trying to do is Scotch for Dummies. Obviously, we have a deep love for Scotch. That's where we started, and always will have it. Is we're trying to show our Scotch lovers and actually a lot of those bourbon lovers out there that American single malt whiskey has really got a place. And if you like Scotch, single malt Scotch, non-Isla, we'll say. Non-peated, you're really going to find a love in the American single malt world because it's malted barley, like you said. You love that grain. And I really think that there's going to be a lot of bourbon lovers out there that cross over and are like, okay, what is this? And it's made in America, and it's, so it's super exciting for us, and we're glad to partner. I'm so stoked that you guys let us do this with you and bring this bottle to reality.
I feel like it's a perfect storm right now too, because the last month on our channel we've been talking about kind of just the whole brown liquor industry and how it's changing. In the last two, let's be realistic, 5 years, the bourbon craze has been nuts, right? It's just really crazy. For sure. But there's a lot of people drinking it, but it's slowing down. The prices are going up. It's getting harder to find. This is a perfect time for ASM to swoop right on in, right, and talk about this. It's a perfect time for our people that are seeing some of that tariffs and other things for other Scotch bottles out there. Hey, you know what?
You don't have to go to Scotland.
Is exactly right. It's exactly right. Yeah. So very excited.
Well, and Scotch are so expensive too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's exciting for you guys in the standpoint that this is all you've ever done, right? We kind of alluded earlier, there's a lot of the bourbon distilleries out there that are, they're throwing out an American single malt every now and again because they got some leftover stuff, after a run. And, hey, that's great. And then there's a lot of distilleries that are popping up kind of like the craft beer industry, 10 to 15 years ago. And they're like, hey, let's make some single malt. They don't know what they're doing. They don't even know how to distill whiskey, let alone make it. But this is your bread and butter. It's what you've done from day one, and you've got it figured out. You know how to make good whiskey, and that's why you're here, right?
So Amanda, what are you seeing in the brown spirits markets? What is kind of your view of that?
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster for sure, but it's really exciting because people are more educated than ever. And they really do seem to understand that there are different laws that are coming into play. And in the US, it seems like single casks are still really exciting. I'm watching that happen in the UK, that there is suddenly more interest in higher ABV because for a long time it was like, no, 40% is high enough. And I think that palette's changing. And we've seen different runs on like, okay, finishing is really the thing, or different casks. Now I think there's just more curiosity all around. And I am excited about collaborations and unexpected pairings. So like one thing I've been focused on a lot lately is what we're calling Brewers Coalition, having local relationships and shining a light on that, and sustainability. I think that is huge, that it's going to keep being huge. People want to know what goes into each bottle and that it's being done thoughtfully and ethically.
Okay.
So there was a question, though, Drew, that someone talked about doing collaboration type things and blending. Is that on Virginia's radar? Are you? I mean, I assume you guys talk to other distilleries that are making American single malts. I mean, in Scotland, everybody's competing against each other, but behind the scenes, they're all talking. They're sharing information. If I have a problem at my distillery, I'm going to call you and say, hey, man, I can't get rid of this. What's going on? So you're obviously incommunicado with the Westlands, the Westwards, the Stranahans of the world, right? And are you guys considering maybe collaborating or sharing things and putting something together that we can get excited about?
Yes, I've actually done one already. It was with an independent bottler, Lost Lantern.
We know them.
Oh,
Love them.
Yes,
They're
they're
great.
fantastic. So Nora and Adam hosted us in Denver, and a group of us got together, and we brought samples. So look up American Vatted Malts by Lost Lantern. And we actually bottled it at our distillery. Virginia Distillery Company did it, but it was so much fun. It was a great collaboration. So you can follow Lost Lantern and see pictures of like, oh, there's Miles Monroe from Westward. And it was just a lot of great, passionate people coming together. Balcones was there. We had Jared Hempstead. It was just a really fun time. So it was just 2 days. It was a whirlwind, but it was a blast. And we've been talking about doing it again. So that one won World Whiskey Awards Best in Category that year. And VDC had won 7 years in a row for the port cask finish. And so we lost to ourselves that year.
Nice.
That seems okay.
It's all right though.
It was excellent.
So on the other end of the scale, I've got to ask, what have you made that was terrible? That you thought this was good, you thought this finish was going to work, or you thought this casking was going to work, and it just it had to be discarded or blended with something else to mitigate it. Are you willing to admit?
The train wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was super disappointed by some rum casks that we got years ago. And I just kept hoping that they were going to come along and do something for me. And they never did. So I eventually blended them all out for an export product. So yeah, I was really disappointed.
I just got to say our patron, Tom, he's asked a couple times now, ask about rum cask, ask about rum cask. I think you just killed him.
Yeah.
I think he's dead. Yeah. So
it's really hard to get those in good condition where we are. And a lot of those guys, like if you look at who owns who and those interconnections, I haven't given up on it. But the good ones that I did get later ended up going into that export product as well. So never seen it.
He actually has a question.
It's a good question.
It's a good question. You want to ask it?
Yeah.
No, go for it.
So has John Glazier reached out to buy some casks to start an ASM blend spin on Compass Box? Interesting.
Can you
Is it hush?
I will say we had a visit a couple years ago from certain people from Compass Box. That's all I can say right now. And we haven't given anything yet. So.
Well,
fair enough.
They're masterminds.
We do love Compass Box.
Yeah.
Oh,
We've met John.
And since he's left Compass Box, everybody's asking, what's John
what's your
doing?
next thing?
Where's John
John's gotta
at?
be
What's
doing
he
something.
doing? Where's John? He's gonna pop up somewhere, and what's going on? And everybody's curious. I think there's a lot of bets out there on what John Glazier does.
What's the over under on? Yeah. Well, why don't we segue into the next part of the show? And let's talk about this bottle right here.
Which one?
This one right in front of you.
I think I want to pour it on that
Let's
one.
pour a little bit.
I'm ready to have
You know
some
what?
of this.
Before we do that, I'm going to take off the little magnetic coin. That's pretty
So
cool.
let's do basic stats. This is American Single Malt, ex-bourbon cask, 60.7% ABV, cask number 6333, bottled for Scotch for Dummies.
So let's back all the way up until our first conversation, Amanda. We reach out to you guys because we're wanting to bottle a cask, and we have a meeting. And I'm going to tell you, it was a Zoom call. I took it in my office at home, and I get on the Zoom, and I'm waiting for y'all to join. And I think I'm just going to have a call with you. There's Amanda Beckwith.
I do remember you telling me about this.
She's master blender. All right, we'll have a good call. We'll talk about the options and what we can do. And all of a sudden, bing, 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 people start joining. And then the one camera, there's like 2 or 3 people on a count, and I'm like, holy shit.
happened?
I'm like, I feel a bit outnumbered, and man, it was the most professional, like real. You guys came prepared, like it was. I hung up and I called Drew. It was the middle of a work day. I'm like, you're not gonna believe how that call. It didn't go like any of the other calls.
Do you like work for Brown Foreman or something?
Yeah. I'm like, the other calls, it's a one-on-one meeting, and we're like, hey, we're kind of getting to feel each other out. I'm like, man, they came with. There was the chief operating officer there. I mean, it was really unique, but there was one
Did you need
point,
to sign an NDR or something?
I think they got on the wrong call.
At one point when we talked about it, there was one thing I said, and I remember seeing your face and your reaction, and I told you what we were looking for. We'd just come off of this Andalusia bottle, this chocolate malt, which was delicious, and we're going to bring some of it to you so you can at least get a taste of it, because I know you're interested in that it's your world. But I told you we wanted just a clean American single malt spirit. We want to see what Virginia Distilling Companies distill it and just ex-bourbon, clean out, and you just lit up like a Christmas tree, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think we got a winner here. She's going to go into that rick house, and she's got probably a half a dozen in the back of her head right now, but she can probably rattle off cask numbers. I mean, and then you sent us samples, and we go through these samples, and we were like, well, shit, all of them are worthy of bottling. What do we do here?
Can I just say we have done this a few times with samples, and normally we all kind of do them blind, and we have them in front of us, and we go through them together, and we're like, yeah, whatever, tasting notes. I remember specifically standing right there and getting all 4 of your samples. I loved them all. Like I was so giddy with like, these are all really good. It was hard to pick one,
Right?
Yeah.
But this one stood out.
This one
Like,
stood
wow.
out. Yeah.
That makes me happy. Yeah.
So-
I have to say we had the best team. So you were talking about Jerry Hetty, our chief operations officer. They are all so supportive, and I'm really lucky to have the work crew that I have. So they're happy about things like this too. So, and I was thrilled because I've never had that ask before, like a clean, stripped down, get to know the distillate. Because people are very into age statements and big, bold, barrel-focused things, and so that was really fun for me.
I was stoked, and
got a winner.
Your
Yeah.
entire team was really spot. Everybody
So
was
professional.
so
Yeah.
professional and involved, and it's like the ball never got dropped. Everybody knew what their role in the process was, and I was like, this is like too easy. It was just one of those experiences. It was totally different. We loved our experience at Andalusia, much smaller distillery. Ty's great. We had a really
Great
good
people.
time down
Absolutely.
there. Great
Yeah.
bottle of whiskey. Virginia was completely different, and it was really eye-opening to me. And you've really been great to us and opened the door and been professional the whole way. And then to say this bottle of whiskey, let's talk about this bottle of
Yeah,
whiskey.
so talk about this bottle. Like, what do you know about it and the maturation and everything? Give us the scoop.
Yeah,
What's
so the
behind
new
the
make went in back in August 17th, 2020, and we filled it at 62.5. So that's the highest legal entry proof for whiskey. And you'll notice at 60.7, it's not that ABV. So that speaks to the really humid, intense Virginia climate.
In
So
just
we're
that
having
period.
natural, reduction in cask. So it's 4.5 years old. And when we talk about the distillate, all those congeners, the fruity esters, everything really does still dominate. So you're having soft lactones coming in from the barrel, but it is very much like this is it. There is no masking going on.
I love that.
How many times did this bourbon cask been used? Is this a first fill?
It's
Or
a first
single-
fill. So this was a Woodford Reserve cask. A level 4 alligator char. I think it was probably 6 years at Woodford before we got it. And I mean, we're right next door to Kentucky, so you get those barrels super fresh. And the new
Yeah.
make went in. There you go.
Well, let me tell you, it's a beaut, Clark. It's a beaut.
It's
so
wonderful.
good.
It's a quality.
It's a quality item right here. Let's do a live tasting
right.
and let Amanda talk through it with us. We did this a couple days ago, but I'm really excited to do it again.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, so one of the original impressions I got on the nose is just it's bright. You know, when you think of a bright whiskey, you think it jumps out of the glass. It has, light floral character, some light sweet fruits, and it's not like heavy. Like some scotches can be really heavy with, too deep of dark fruits and
Yeah.
things like that. And this is bright.
It is bright, and tutti frutti, like amazingly. I got some words tonight. It's so fruity. Like I remember when we were doing it, I couldn't remember the bananas I had. I had other things, melons, and you mentioned apples. It's very fruit forward on the nose.
Yes, and those are all fermentation esters, so that's what you would find right there. I definitely get like the butterscotch and brulee banana. This vanilla custard note comes through, and the palate, melon for sure, grilled pineapple. There is that apple note, and then there's like this hint of fresh pine and citrus to me, and then it goes into right now on the palate. I'm getting more like cocoa for the finish.
Cocoa.
So
you mentioned a little chocolate.
So do you do something special with your yeast or your fermentation time or your distillation times to get all those extra fruit flavors coming through?
Yeah, we actually use 2 different yeast strains. One we consider the workhorse, so its job is just doing the conversion over. The other one is there because we like the esters it develops. So yeah, we pitch them both pretty close together. Nice. And we do a 3-day ferment.
I had forgotten. I mean, I knew we were going to pick a good cask, right? But when we got the bottles, I was like, oh, yeah, this is the one that's clean and just going to be distillate. And when we poured it, I was like, this is like really, really good. It's bright and fruity and just a fun glass of whiskey. And as you can see, we hate it because we've almost killed this bottle this week. But it's wonderful to get something like that you can definitely see the character of the distillery coming through.
Yeah.
And at 60.7, it's 60 ABV, guys, and it's still
but doesn't,
pretty damn approachable.
It doesn't
I haven't put
taste
water
like
on
that.
It. Right. I mean, I'm still
not even on the nose.
So how do you do that? How do you make a 60% ABV glass something that doesn't burn you out?
Yeah, I think that there are different tricks for sure. One of the things that I think does help is that balance with tannins and lactones, giving the right age too. If you go really young, you're going to get a hot whiskey more likely. It's finding the right cask too, because I have plenty of very hot casks, especially at the 4-year range still. And it's going on a treasure hunt every time. Okay. And if I don't have the luxury of reducing and blending, then it's got to be a honey barrel.
So is that pulling like more oils and stuff out of the wood that creates that smoothness, for lack of a better word, into it?
It can, and there are different things pulled out at different alcohol strengths. So you have more water soluble versus alcohol soluble things that can be extracted from the casks. There's lots that come into play. And I think having a humid maturation environment, which we do, really does make an impact.
Yeah. So whereas Kentucky, you tend to upproof. Do you typically downproof whiskey when you're at your rick houses?
Almost always. There's a spike that can happen, especially in like August. It can get kind of dry and hot, especially at we have microclimates inside our cask houses. So say you're on the upper left quadrant, it might be a spike in ABV, but there are a lot of humidity pockets too. So yeah, for sure. Typically after 8 years of aging, we're seeing it drop down to 59% ABV. On average.
Is there an age range that's kind of your sweet spot when you're looking at barrels?
Yeah, I really do like 6 years here in Virginia. There are some beautiful 7-year-old casks, even 8, coming on 9. But I don't want the whiskey to be over oaked. I think that's a disservice to us. It's one thing if you're aging in Scotland or Ireland where it's much more stable. They only have a few big temperature swings a year. But I mean, right now, we're seeing 50-degree spikes in 48 hours. So our barrels are getting quite the workout. We've had a snowstorm. I just had a foot of snow and then ice on top of it. And then it hit 60 degrees and then it happened all over again. So
that's nuts. That's gotta be hell to kind of figure stuff out, just completely changing things all the time.
Yes.
Do you stress out about that? I mean, are there times when you're at home and you see the weather and you're like, Jesus, what's going on with my whiskey? Right?
Yes.
Because those barrels are
breathing. I've got to dump something. Yeah. I've tried for small amounts of barrels, but if it's going to be a big range of casks dumped, I will stress. And I have a phenomenal colleague, Brian Hersey. He's our cellar and warehouse manager. And bless him, I asked him to bring 14 casks down last week to put them by the stills to keep them warm, and he did it.
Oh my God. Blankets on them, little heating pads.
It's like they're your little babies, right? They're like, oh my God, we got to put a blanket on.
And I was like, Brian, do you have time? And he was like, yes,
awesome.
I've got you.
That's so cool.
My babies are going to get cold.
You got to love what you do.
I mean, you have them marked and everything. I need that one. Not that one. That one's bad. That one. Bring them over here.
All right. Bad cask.
Yep.
Bad cask.
Well, I can tell you, 3 weeks ago we had a show where we were just talking about just being excited again in whiskey and Scotch, et cetera, whatever. But I can tell you right now, I am so excited for this bottle and what you guys are doing. Like I'm obviously we're excited, but every time I get to drink it, all the things are coming out. I'm like, wow, this is made in America. This is made in America, guys.
Yep.
It is.
Let's drink it.
It's really good.
There was a question, and it was a good question, and I'll pose it to her. So have you noticed a difference, or can you tell us what the difference is between the Scottish palate and an American palate?
Oh, interesting.
Because it gets interesting. We're talking about this is so close to Scotch. It's single malt, right? It's the same whiskey. It's just being aged and distilled in different locations. But is there a difference between the two palates?
Yeah, I think for a long time the American palate was much more acclimatized to new oak, and that wasn't always the case. Bourbon and rye have to age in new charred oak since the 60s. So I've watched, I don't know what people were really like in the 60s. I wasn't around for it. I wasn't even drinking whiskey in the 80s or 90s. But from reading and talking to people and understanding it, and then going to Scotland and spending time drinking whiskey with them over there, one of the first things that one of my spiritual grandpas would say to me was, we like a gentle dram. And that really has resonated. I don't want to be aggressive and attack the whiskey. And I think a lot of the Scottish people's palates is aligned with that. It is more into the nuance. And I was drinking a lot of Japanese single malts when I first got into the industry. And I think they were very much inspired by the Scottish drinkers. They were into the layers and the nuance and all of that. So that spoke to me on a really deep level. I like stories, so I want my whiskey to unfold. I'm really cool with the aroma leading into the palate, but I don't need it to exactly mirror. And I think that that's something that some of the American palates are still aligning towards, that they expect everything to be at a certain level, intense. But it's changing, and American palates are cool because we're explorers. And I think there's a lot of curiosity. So we have that going for us.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a lot of bourbon drinkers that come to the distillery and you kind of change them into malt drinkers? I mean, have you seen that like epiphany of like, oh, this is really, really good. Like I want to try more and explore this.
Yes, it's really satisfying to me because, don't get me wrong, I love bourbon, but it's really cool to see people fall in love with single malt and all its potential. The fact that it's not handcuffed in so many ways like bourbon is really cool. And I think there's a lot of playfulness in single malts that is surprising to people. So once they start going down that rabbit hole, it just gets richer and deeper, and it takes you all over the world. There are so many cool single malts from England and India and New Zealand and Australia, and it's just so fun. So yeah, once you start, it's really a great adventure.
So to bring it back to this bottle, were you surprised that we selected this one? Or when you went to the Rick House to pull samples for us and you're like, okay, I'm going to get this one, I'm going to get this one. Because literally, going back to our conversation, I honestly saw like a light bulb above your head. You're like, I mean, she's going back. She knows what she's pulling. So it's
one with a heating blanket on.
Right. It's the one that I'm... So... how did that go? Were you surprised when we said cask? What is it? 633.
633.
Yep, 6333.
I wasn't sure because I didn't know your palates, and I didn't know if you really meant it. That you were
fair.
Totally
fair.
Preconceived ideas. So it was a little bit like, okay, I'll just be really honest. This is it, stripped down, no masking. I know what our distillate is. And we have a chief marketing officer, Andrew Meisner. When he came on board, he said, I need you to tell me what your house style is for whiskey. And I finally was like, okay, it's orchard fruit and spice. And so stripped down, that's what this whiskey is. I mean, we were talking about, you were getting apple and pear. And I mean, it can get a little more tropical. So I like those notes because they really do come from the East. So the pineapple note, I look for that. There's a little bit of apricot in there. So I knew exactly the DNA that I wanted to make sure was coming through. And I had those casks because I go through and I grade them when they hit 4 years, I start. And so this was one that I thought was very much like a foundational, perfect glimpse into who we are and what we're making.
Home run.
Well, I can't wait to try more.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. So, we were thinking like for the next cask, it should be a banger, like something that's really powerful. But maybe not. Maybe if you are seeing that Americans tend to like these really punchy whiskeys that have like, over finish or something like that. Maybe we need to talk through that as a group. Is where do we want to land on that? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we're also opening ourselves up when we go down there, and our patrons that show up, they're going to be part of the selection. So it's going to be a little bit more interesting, and I'm excited about that. I mean, who knows where we land, but we do need to at least give her some kind of idea of where to start, right?
She only has 8,000 casks
Right.
to figure out something.
But they're not ready though. They're not all ready.
Yeah,
That's
correct.
Fair.
At the end of the day, the excitement for this whiskey, I mean, you were the one that select, gave us the sample. We selected it. Now you got to be part of putting this in a bottle and seeing that particular baby grow up and move on and go out. And here it goes. And here it is in front of us, right? So
I love this analogy.
Out of curiosity, how do you feel about seeing this whiskey in a bottle and it's getting ready to get sent out and be available to, let's be realistic, guys. Our patrons, they're whiskey lovers.
And
These
people are already drooling, like, when can we get it? When can we get
Right.
it? So we're going to talk about that at the end of the show. But yes.
I mean, this is a product that you've been a part of this since it was made, right? This has got Amanda
that
all
cast
over
down.
it, right? And
God,
here it is
good.
in front of you on the screen. How does it make you feel that we're doing this?
Oh, I love it. It's an interesting question because when it comes to blends that I'm working on, I never feel like they're ready. It's always like you're ripping it out of my hands, and I'm such a perfectionist. But single casks like this, I get super stoked about because I always feel like it's because people want to experience whiskey the way the blender does, up in the cask house, pulling samples, getting to experience it the way I do. And so this is a really pure snapshot into like if you were hanging out with me in cask house 1, I drilled in, pulled it, was like, yeah, here we go. I just kind of was imagining you guys right beside me, like, here you go. Yes, you like it. This is it. Just really pure, unadulterated. So I love that.
I cannot wait to do that with you in person.
We're gonna do that,
It's
right?
so fun.
Yes, we are.
But in regards to this bottle, that's exactly what happened. I mean, we told you what we want, and you went in and just nailed it. And here we are. So super stoked about that. We're going to give a couple samples of this away tonight.
Yeah, we are tonight. Yeah, absolutely. So what else, guys? What other things we want to
There
talk
were a
about?
couple of questions that scrolled through the chat. I don't know if we have time to get to them because we've
got some things to get
rambled.
through.
I know one was about the barrels. Do you get most of them from Woodford, Brown
Oh, yeah.
Forman, or do
Oh,
you
yeah.
kind of source from a bunch of different places?
Yeah, roughly half of our whiskey is aging in ex-bourbon barrels from Brown Forman distilleries. But the other half is a big mix. I get a lot of casks that are ex-wine casks. So I source from the US. There are some local Virginia partners that I love. There are some incredible California wineries I've worked with, but also a lot from France, Spain, and Portugal. And then the same thing for the fortified wine casks, like the sherry butts, of course, come from Spain, a port cask from Portugal.
So there's a next question is, have you played with any peat or smoked grain or Isle of finishing barrels, any of that kind of stuff?
Yes, yeah, I have. We even experimented peat smoking some casks just to be crazy one day.
Wow.
I do have a handful of casks that came from Isla
Oh,
and a few other crazy experimentals too. So I don't know where and when they'll make an appearance in anything bottled at this time, but I love peat. I'm very much a fan of it.
I think we're going to have a really good time when
So,
we can
so
visit.
what percentage
This is awesome.
of your castings are like on the experiment? Would you consider on the experimental side, and which are like hitting your core?
Yeah, only about 5% of our casks are experimentals, sadly. But when we were getting started, up through 2017, there was a lot more of that because we didn't know what our core maturation program was going to look like. In 2016, we brought on Dr. Jim Swan, and he was this maturation genius. And he said, I recommend doing new make into things like sherry casks so you can really get differentiated. And that was a brilliant recommendation. So thanks to him, we have STR casks and new make aging and sherry casks that goes into some of our core line.
That's nice. Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
I'm a sherry bomber.
I mean, that's why anybody that buys a Virginia Distilling bottle, they like it. I mean, it's like, oh no, people don't shun this company. So.
I'm a Pete head. I'm a sherry bomber. I love them all. But
bring them on.
Yeah, right.
Or just plain.
Or just nice, clean. I like them that way too. So, Drew, are there any more questions in the chat that we want to get to? Or we've got a couple of things that we need to get.
I think we need to get going on the trivia here next, and then the Patreon drawings. But if you guys have some more questions in the chat, go ahead and put a Q in front of your name, and then we'll get to it here shortly. But we're going to talk about this more just in a second. But let's play some trivia. Amanda, are you up for some trivia? To have some.
I mean, you're not. This is not about right or wrong. I don't want you to feel like you're being put on the spotlight.
I mean, she is globally educated on this.
But she's probably more educated. Especially, this is an American
this is a good
trivia.
One.
So
it's the ultimate American whiskey trivia challenge.
Oh, wow. That seems like a lot.
I got stoked on this.
It's a lot.
It is good. I will say this is total AI creation of the image. Pretty amazing, honestly.
AI created that?
Yeah,
AI created that.
It's amazing what you can do with AI. But let's begin. The chat's ready to go, so let's get on with the first question, shall we?
Let's go.
Tom's already answering. He does another question.
He is.
What is the most common barrel size used in American whiskey production? 30 gallon?
I know this one.
100 gallon? 53 gallon? Hold on one second. Let's get a few comments from the chat.
People who also
yeah.
And then you'll answer, and hopefully we align with
So
you.
we'll give them a second to answer.
So we got a 20-second delay. So when they see us, 20 seconds more. So
yeah. So 30 gallons, 100 gallons, 53 gallons, or 66 gallons. And
did you randomize these answers?
No.
So while those are coming in, I want to ask a question that came on through the chat. Oh, I just missed it. What is your whiskey Mount Rushmore? People or bottles? Like, what is your guiding light? If you could make a statue out of them, who are they?
Ooh, that's a good question.
As a person?
Person or even a whiskey that is kind of your North Star. Either way.
Wow. Getting started, I was in love with Yamazaki 12. It was just really approachable, but still a very complex story. So that inspired my signature malt blend, just the blue bottle Courage and Conviction. That's back behind me. Gosh, there are so many inspiring people in the whiskey industry, so it'd be impossible to pick one, but I guess I would say Nancy Fraley because
that makes sense.
She's so
agreed.
inspirational, and she has fun and brings people in and doesn't gatekeep, like I said. So yeah, she's a good North Star to have.
A rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing.
Yeah, what they say, man. I said that quote earlier.
They also say C.
You did say that earlier.
Yeah, C is.
So everyone's basically
C
saying
is
C.
the
What's
answer.
your answer?
They know what's up.
Yeah, they know what's up. That's right. The answer is C.
53-gallon barrel, industry standard for aging American whiskey.
All right, next question.
Question 2. What is the legal minimum aging requirement for American single malt whiskey?
This is a good
A,
one.
no minimum aging requirement. B, no minimum by federal law, but must be aged in new charred oak barrels. C, 2 years. D, 4 years. I'll admit there's a little bit of a catch here, so if you need to know the rules to answer this one accurately, but I'll lead, and not to set you up to fail here, Amanda. But
Did you get that wrong earlier?
No, I did. I actually pointed it out to Drew.
Covering it up already. He's trying to.
I pointed it out to Drew. I'm like, you know what? This one could get a little bit crazy, but it didn't use a particular word in the question. There's one word missing that would change the question. So,
all right, people coming in with C
and
A, C, and A so far, the 2 ones.
Right.
Need some more A's coming through. What do you think, Amanda? You got one here?
A, because the word missing is straight.
Amen.
She is.
Right. And how do you feel about that, Amanda? When I read that in the rules, I was kind of taken back that they actually went there were so many organizations that were against that. The SWA, the Irish body that governs them, the Canadian, everybody was like, don't do this, put a minimum age statement on it, don't use because it's going to, using the word straight's going to confuse the malted
Which
bar.
is exactly what happened here, right?
And they instead went with one person that made a comment into the response that said straight is American and that we need to stick to that. And that's what the TTB did.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel about that?
Yeah, even in Scotland, the 3 years plus was not always a thing. So I think that having 2 years up would be a huge slap in the face for people like Balcones and their maturation environment.
Exactly.
So I will correct, it is that it does not have to age in new charred oak. Bourbon and rye, yes. So heads up on that. Not only is there straight, which has the 2 years, but there's also bottled and bond, which has 4. U.S. whiskey laws have a lot more nuance for things like age. So I think one thing to note is with TTB requirements, if the whiskey is aged less than 3 years, it does need to state it on the label anyway. So there's extra protections built in.
Yeah. It's just a little bit different for most of our subscribers that watch the channel that are coming from a Scotch perspective. I want them to understand that and what does that really mean? Because even I'm confused about it a little bit, going, gosh, man, I would rather them just do this. They made it confusing, but it's not confusing if you just take the time to understand it. And I just learned from what you just said about the 4-year bottle and bond. I didn't know that applied to American single malt.
So there are definitely whiskey categories, but then there are things like straights and bottled and bond, which can apply to any American whiskeys as long as they fall into the category. So yeah,
interesting.
There's extra things.
That's
but yes,
the point of
just
this.
to clarify, American single malt does not have to age in new charred oak if people are confused.
Correct.
And now you know.
Which is great. Is it my turn?
It's your turn, brother.
All right. What is the main difference between a pot still and a column still in whiskey production? This seems like an Andrew question. A, pot stills produce lower proof whiskey with more flavor compounds, while column stills produce higher proof, cleaner spirits. B, pot stills are only used for vodka production. That's hilarious. C, column stills cannot be used for bourbon production. And D, there is no difference.
What do they say in like test scores? Always go with a long answer.
Sounds like that. It's a nuance thing. There's lots
Or
of
C.
A's coming through.
Everyone's saying A in the channel, so
They know what's up.
I think they know what's
Got a
going
great
on.
answer there.
They
Yeah,
were answering A by the time I got through reading A.
that's right. To be fair, I put it up a while back, but yes.
Yes,
All right.
Tom. If you can't see the comments, Amanda, but Tom says that I want an internship at your distillery, so that's
Yeah.
true.
We all,
That would
actually,
be
we all
fun.
do.
So which major American whiskey distillery was one of the few legally allowed to produce medicinal whiskey during Prohibition?
Damn, that's a good
A,
one.
Maker's Mark. B, Brown-Forman, which is Old Forester in early times. C, Pappy Van Winkle. And D, Buffalo Trace.
This is a toughie. I did not know this
It's
one.
toughy for us. She's smiling like she knew it before you finished reading the question.
I'm not 100% sure. I think I know it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, I used to.
what do we
So
got?
I visited. I visited the distillery that talked that, but I don't remember which one it was.
A lot of them talk about it.
We've got an A and a D, but nobody else is answering.
Well, it's
yet.
got you give them 20-second delay. It's gonna catch up in just a second. Here we go. Here's B,
There's
B,
some
D.
Bs.
Everybody knows it's not C.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not C.
Yeah, that's.
We got more B's coming in. 1D. Mostly
guys got a
B's
guess
so
on
far.
this one? This
Bs.
one's
What do you
hard.
guys
Yeah.
think? You guys don't know the answer either, do you?
Well, I do because I took the
Okay.
survey.
You don't
What
earlier.
do you two
You
get?
don't get to answer then. I was going to go with A.
A or D. That's where I'm struggling with. I don't know.
You're both wrong.
It's not A.
All right.
Is it B?
It's B.
It is B.
Brown-Forman.
Oh, we didn't let Amanda guess, but she was gonna say B. We know that.
I thought it was B, but there was a chance. I was trying to remember if Buffalo Trace had any of their, but no. So I was probably,
I thought Buffalo Trace.
They've been around. It's
because they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So. All right, go Mark.
Oh, what is the maximum allowable proof ABV for distilling bourbon and rye in the U.S.? 160
Same
proof.
single malt as well.
Is it the same for saying? Okay, Good point.
And I think you gave the answer earlier.
You did.
in this call.
Don't tell.
Right.
So
160 proof, 155 proof, 140 proof, 125 proof. And if you don't know how to figure out the ABV from that, you shouldn't be on the channel.
Don't be on the channel.
that's correct.
But it's on the
Wow,
screen.
That seems gatekeeping.
It is.
It's
we
mean,
come from
Mark.
an ABV world. I mean, come on.
That's
so
fair.
this is the maximum allowable for distilling or for barreling.
Distill.
It's
distilling.
All
It's-
maximum
Yeah, so I
allowable
didn't give it away.
distilling.
I just said the entry proof, which has to be a little lower than this.
Right.
Yeah.
I see
Mostly
Doc
A's,
Martin's in the chat now.
a couple D's, but mostly A's so far. We got some smart
So, I
people
mean,
in our chat.
160 proof, for those that can't figure it out, it's 80% ABV. That's pretty high.
Must be distilled no
freaking
more than
ABV.
80, 160 proof. So
Yeah,
80% off the column or the still, and no more than 62.5 into the barrel.
Right. So
What's the reason for that? Why do they? Do you know the
that's
reason
a great
why they
question.
have?
Why
that
do they
80%?
do that, Amanda?
They're trying to give a buffer between a neutral spirit. So that way there's still some recognizable whiskey character before you get into,
barrel,
vodka
yeah.
territory.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Yeah, because
that's fair.
the azeotrope of alcohol and water is 95%. So that's why.
If only Dr. Scotch
was
were in the
Dr.
house.
Scotch
that's
here or
why
something?
that's why Everclear is at 95.
Mr. Chemist.
Andrew's a chemical engineer by trade, just so you know.
A little bit of that. Yeah.
He's nerding out here.
All right. Oh, who's next?
It's
you,
Sean.
Is it me? What is a high rye bourbon? A whiskey made from 100% rye, a bourbon with a rye content of 15 to 35% in the mash bill, a bourbon distilled in a column still rather than a pot still, or a Tennessee whiskey with more rye than corn?
Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
D. I'm gonna go D.
Sure.
You're going to go D? What you got, Sean? What are you thinking?
B.
You're going to go B?
That's probably
I'm
what
going
I
B.
would say.
You're going
There's
B?
lots of B's coming through.
Lots of B's coming through in
Is
the
it sad?
chat.
I'm going to say I don't care.
B
Boom.
is the correct answer.
All right.
Must be 51% corn. High rye bourbon contains 15 to 35% rye, giving a spicier flavor.
Spicy. All right. Question 7. What was the name of the whiskey rebellion that took place in 1794
Ooh.
against the first U.S. excise tax on distilled spirits?
It feels like a history.
A,
I mean, I
the
know
Barrel
it.
War. B, the Mash Bill Revolt. C, the Whiskey Rebellion. Or D, the Temperance Uprising.
I like the sound of B. I just think it sounds cooler. The mash bill.
The mash bill
Oh,
revolt.
yeah, that's too technical, though.
Exactly.
People don't say, "Oh, what is your mash bill?"
In
You know, that's a nerd
1794, they weren't
question,
talking.
right?
I get it, but I like the sound of it. So Amanda, you got an idea here?
Oh, I know it.
Oh, she's
I've thought about this. Yeah.
So
It's-
lots of C's.
And George Washington actually rode out to help quell this rebellion.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did not like to be taxed. The first
some
internal
smart
tax
people.
levied by the U.S. government was on whiskey.
Well,
Gotta-
of course,
gotta pay for that war.
I mean, It was a fairly conservative, religious organization.
So if Amanda decides to leave her job, she can go work for the National Parks Department, for Christ's sake. I mean, she's like, George Washington rode out
knows
for this.
all of
And
it.
I'm like, God.
All right, so it was C, the Whiskey Rebellion. All right, so I guess that's me now. What is the primary reason distillers historically use charred barrels for aging whiskey? A, to sterilize their barrel before use. B, to enhance the flavor of caramelizing wood sugars and filtering impurities. C, to increase the alcohol content during aging. Or D, to create a darker color for better market appeal.
I mean, all these kind of.
There's
Yes,
some
I mean,
truth to most of them.
It's
but
not
yeah.
bad. That's a pretty good ABCD, but there's one that's really.
I'm going to guess they didn't care about A.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, when it's 62%.
Remember, barrels were the common container of the day. So they had things like fish and rusty nails and all the stuff going in there.
True. Ah, fair
It's
point.
all flavor, man.
That is
Tastes like a
true.
Campbelltown.
Jesus.
Oh, shit. Where's that funk come from? I don't know.
Maybe the fish.
Sardines.
Yeah. We had socks in this one.
Most people are saying B in the chat so far. So, Amanda, what are you going with?
So interestingly, it was not law to char the barrels until the 60s when the Coopers Guild lobbied the U.S. government and said, help us out. So they were charring to clean. It did create a carbon filter. and that would help filter out things. So technically, toasting brings more flavor enhancement than charring does.
Oh,
I said that shit when I went through it earlier with you.
Yeah, you did.
So it was to move all the nasty that was in the barrel beforehand. So
yeah, because they were taking these barrels and shipping them down places like the Mississippi River, and they weren't going to ship them back up north, So they just kept making new ones, and then they'd reuse the barrels and char them out. So it was
damn, she knows.
Amanda, you're my spirit animal.
No kidding.
good
Lord.
Whose turn is it?
Which American whiskey brand successfully lobbied for the passage of the Bottle and Bond Act of 1897? Maker's Mark, George Dickel, Old Forester via Colonel E.H. Taylor, and Jack Daniels.
I'm like, you're trying to control yourself.
I'm trying.
What's wrong with Colonel Taylor?
Nothing.
All right. You know what
lots
it is?
of
Something like
B's
11
coming in, a D.
Didn't Colonel Taylor have 11 original herbs and spices? What do we
No.
Hey, don't hate on AI.
delicious
It's
whiskey.
a helper.
Yeah, that was Colonel Taylor. That is 11 herbs and spices.
We got mostly C's, a few B's, but mostly C's here.
Everybody's saying Old Forester, so they're saying
I think
that.
you're right.
Yep.
I think they're right too.
Colonel E.H. Taylor.
That's
Old
correct.
Forester and Buffalo Trace. Yeah.
You can be a Kentucky Colonel if you want to be.
Well, hey, you can't, and it comes with the title Colonel.
I know a guy who's a Kentucky Colonel.
But when it's in Kentucky, it's
Read the
Colonel.
question.
Colonel.
Dang right it is. All right, question 10. What is the purpose of sour mash in whiskey production?
Ooh.
All right. A, it increases the final proof of the whiskey. B, it maintains consistency by using a portion of previously fermented mash in each new batch. C, it makes the whiskey sweeter by adding sugar. And D, it accelerates the aging process by increasing acidity.
So can I say that B sounds like, okay, that means I should take a piece of my previously chewed gum and put it with my new chewed gum just to make sure that it still tastes the
Well,
same.
it's more like a sourdough.
Think like sourdough.
Sourdough.
I'm just trying to
this
give
is
an
interesting.
analogy.
'Cause This is kind of a nerdy point. Sour mash isn't that common in whiskey. I mean, it is used, but it's less frequent. So that's interesting. Question: What do you
Definitely more the
B's?
bourbon world than the single malt world.
For sure.
Right.
Yes.
Obviously, my analogy didn't throw anybody off because they're all saying B.
They're all saying B.
I tried. Amanda.
Nobody was buying
Yeah,
that.
no one was buying the wrong answer there. But,
Okay.
Nice.
so how'd you all do? Most people got it right. And by the way, don't be a hater of the AI trivia. It helps me out. If you want to help me with trivia, send me some trivia questions. I'm always game for it. But
Get on Discord.
I know, right?
Drew will take questions.
I will take questions. But that was fun. It was some good. And you know what?
I learned a little bit.
She knows her shit.
Yeah.
No question.
We like that.
Right.
Globally
I better
educated.
know about barrels.
Yep.
But we do have to finish up with a couple of spins here because we want to give a couple samples to some of our patrons, although they're probably going to buy a bottle because they have access to this. This is the whole point. Our bottling process, Amanda, is really to provide our patron base with really good American single malt. And I shouldn't just say American single malt. We would love to bottle Scotch, but it's just a lot harder because it's on the other side of the pond. And we may get into that. Hopefully we stumble into something someday where we can, but we're really involved with the American single malt. So we're gonna do a couple spins and do this and give a couple samples of this away.
Let's
but
do this first.
We're going to talk about, before we spin, we want to talk about our visit. And our visit is March 1st, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
So you're going to be there. We're going to be there.
I am.
And we've got a handful of patrons that are coming in. And for those ones that are coming in, we've got something really cool lined up. It's different. We did a bottling with Andalusia. I don't know if you know Ty down there.
Yes,
in
I love
Texas.
Type.
They do some fun stuff. It's a much smaller distillery. The patrons that showed up there, we actually rolled that cask out of the Dunnage house and bottled it. I mean,
I have a picture of Mark riding
Mark
the
was
cat.
riding
I
cask.
rode the cask out of it and then I have a video of Drew pulling the bung out of it, just like it was, It was crazy. It was really fun, and it was an experience for a lot of people because we've never done that. Nobody's ever really bottled a cask of whiskey.
Nobody.
But when we bring them, our patrons that show up to Virginia, we're going to do something different, and we're going to give them the opportunity to be a part of selecting a cask and what that means. And we've had samples sent to us. You sent us samples, and samples are great, but there's nothing that matches pulling a sample right out of the cask and putting it in a glass and getting to know that cask. It's very intimate. It's very personal. It's really cool. And so our patrons are really excited. We've got a handful coming. We're going to come down and see you in March. We've got some things planned. Talk to us about what you think about this.
I'm excited. Yeah, we're going to have fun. My plan is to take everybody on a tour through the distillery up into the cask house. And yeah, I don't see why we can't just drill right into some casks. With that many people, I'll probably pull some samples ahead of time.
Sure.
But I think we can get some hands-on time as well. So yeah, and I know the visitor center team is fantastic, excited to host everybody. So yeah, it'll be a great day.
I think just for fair warning, to make it easier and be prepped, I think with the list of patrons that we know are coming, we'll probably survey them a little bit to say, hey, what are we going to do, guys? What do you want? Do you want Amanda to go clean spirit? Do you want her to go off the rails out there, just to give you an idea? It's not fair for you to just go, hey, we want a whiskey, and you're like, shit, what do I want? We'll give you something to shoot for, but I think it's fun for everybody to be able to say, I like this one, I like that one, but it's going to be an interesting experience for everybody, because it's when you've gone through it a couple times and you're like, damn, this is interesting, it's different, and I don't know what to do. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, because with some distilleries, we've gotten samples and we said those didn't hit, so we need another set, and that it's not that uncommon. So we want to make this a productive visit, and so
easy on everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got a distillery tour lined up, and we're probably gonna pull some kind of catering where there's something to eat. Right. We're not gonna just fill people up with a bunch of whiskey. The patrons that come down,
right.
It's not a 9-course meal or anything, but we're going to have a good time. We're going to, spend some time at the distillery. Everybody can literally come in, take their coat off, and smell, feel, taste, and get to know the distillery, get to know you, and get to know the whiskey that they're going to ultimately be responsible for bottling.
it's their name on it, so they're going to have
Which is super exciting.
Well, everyone in the chat, patrons are coming. They're all talking about can't wait to see you, can't wait to meet everybody. People are super, super stoked for this, as are we. So, wow, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. We are super stoked to see you in person and to have a dram with you in person, get really geeky about all the stuff again. And you know what? Pick a next cask. Super excited.
I'm
absolutely
really excited. Can't wait.
All right. Well, let's see who we're going to give a couple of samples away. I mean, pre-bottling, before they can actually get a bottle. Who's going to get a sample?
Well, before we do that, I want to say thank you again. We're going to put you in the green room where we pick some patrons, but cheers for being on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amanda, you are infectious. I mean, you just make everybody feel good about
everyone
everything.
Loves you. Everybody's talking about can't meet you.
Thank you so much.
I can't wait to meet everybody. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. She was amazing. Holy cow.
I mean,
she makes good whiskey.
Yeah.
She makes good whiskey, and she makes me want to be
so
a part
knowledgeable.
Of it.
She's definitely infectious. Wow. Her personality just draws.
Yeah. I mean, she's got everything going for her right
Patrons,
now.
you guys are going to
pour these samples
effing love this bottle.
I know. This is delicious. So let's get to this, right?
All right. So who is spinning? Who goes first?
Well, we got 2 spins coming up. 2 lucky spins for 2 patrons to win a sample of this bottle now. So you can try it before we get it out there. And by the way, we're going to talk about how you can get a bottle of this right after this couple spins here. So
let's do it, man.
Let's get this going.
Spin them up.
Who is going to be our first winner?
I feel like Pat Sajak.
He's
That's
not
a big
anymore.
wheel, man.
It is a big wheel.
Oh,
Mark.
Father Mark.
Mark? It is Mark.
Father Mark.
Mark going.
This one's going down to Louisiana.
It is.
And I think he's going to be happy about that.
It is. All right, let's get the last winner here. Good luck to everyone.
That's a long spin. Strong
big
arm.
wheel.
Strong arm. My boy.
Is it?
It
It
is. 2
is.
weeks ago.
He won 2 weeks ago.
He did.
This is an old Air Force colleague, my brother from the Air Force that served overseas with him, man.
Wow, that's
He's
awesome.
going to be stoked about this. I'm excited.
Martin,
he's
you were
getting
close. You were real close, Martin.
Something tells me you'll be able to try it though.
Something tells me Martin's getting a bottle of this anyway. Just something. I don't know.
So here's the deal, guys. The bottle, we have a pre-order form ready to go that we're going to be posting here after the show tonight, so that your patrons, you'll see a post here soon. If not tonight, tomorrow morning, we'll see how it goes. But we have a pre-order form, so you can put your name in there and get that going as soon as possible. The Virginia Distillery and Company are working on the link for us to actually go physically order, but we're going to do pre-orders now, so you can get that going. And soon, the bottle will be yours.
Right, and just so everybody that's coming to the distillery, we have at least half of the bottles going out to the distributor so that they can be shipped from the online retailer, but we are keeping some back at the distillery, so those that come to the distillery can at least buy them on site and then have a good time, because we want to make sure, right, you don't have to pay shipping if you're coming to the distillery. So,
yep. Guys, fun show. Great show.
Good times.
Super stoked about this. It's a damn good whiskey, guys.
It's really, really good.
I'd like to take credit for it. Man, we did good, but at the end of the day, Amanda served us up a freaking, a meatball.
That doesn't hurt to have good stuff to pick
right.
from. So
it was easy.
We'll take that.
Looking forward to seeing anybody that's coming in March, on March 1st down to Virginia. We're gonna have a really good time, guys. It doesn't get any easier than this. I mean,
no.
Thanks everybody for showing up. Happy Thursday, boys.
Cheers,
Fun
guys.
y'all.
See you next time,
Cheers
guys.
to you.
Cheers.
3, 2, 1.